I head the department. So I head the department of Dr. Mohan's Diabetic Center and also Madras Diabetes Research Foundation. So I'm here today to talk about this interesting topic. And just to give a brief introduction, as you know, why we do clinical trials to develop a new treatment for any kind of disease. It could be any disease from infectious to non-infectious disease. And the traditional site-based trials, what we feel are costly and time-consuming. And after COVID hit us, and then we found this is very, very important that we have to transform from this platform to the next one that is called as the decentralized clinical trials. So now the gravity of the trial shifts from the study site to the patient's home, right? And they debate like this is going to be the future of clinical research and the need of the hour. But in spite of saying this important point, but I would also like to make a note that we will see a lot of challenges even in adopting the decentralized clinical trials. And I don't know about the mixed, whether the group is mixed with, pharmaceutical people or with people who are just a basic science. I thought, just give me a little couple of introduction on clinical trial. It is nothing new to you. It's discovering a new drug treatment for any type of disease, verifying the clinical pharmacological and pharmacodynamic treatments, and also looking at the adverse effect. It's a prospective study done in humans, and it's an experiment to find a drug. And what is the importance of clinical research? Being in this field, you must know what it benefits. Yes, definitely it benefits the patient by many means. One is that they get treatment free, of course, and they are introduced to the new drug. And also they feel like they are taken a kind of a VVVIA treatment. That is, they are a very important person for us. So they are pampered by me. So that benefits the patients. And it is improving the therapeutic regimens and ensures evidence-based advancement in medical practice. It is all well known to us. But what the benefit to the investigator, right? What do the investigators benefit? A lot of investigators benefit by many things. They get experience with most recent medicines. Take for example, for diabetes, we had only the standard care of treatment like sulfonylurea, metformin. Right now we write even metformin. But now, for the last 10 years, what we found is that we have new molecule called DPP. And also we have GLP analog, which is catching up in a many way. And there are drugs which is coming into market for diabetes, which is also having a weight reduction property. So that is dual role, one drug is playing. So that is where the advancement of research is taking place in means of clinical trials. And you get an extensive GCP training, that is well. And also receive global recognition. What is a global? You're part of a study doing in India, and how are you recognized globally? Example, if you say Dr. Morgan, the principal industry, is taken wherever he's traveled, is known as the best PI, and many of the PIs in India are well known. But I'm a national study coordinator. I'm getting recognized globally because I lead a kind of a panel member where the retention recruitment is taking place. So across Europe, and especially in Southeast Asian countries, I head, and I give tips to them how to recruit and retain the patients. And of course, opportunity to publish papers, scientific papers. Now, what is it? GCP? We all well know it is an international ethical and scientific quality for designing, conducting, recording, and also reporting of human clinical. Just see that it's reporting of human clinical studies, and now the CTRA is come in place. So whenever you do a trial, you have to register under the clinical trial registry before you take up any study. And who are the stakeholders for the study? We well know that it's a mix of people, mainly the sponsor who brings in the molecule. And right now what happens, the sponsor is not able to take up a lot of tasks, so they conduct a contract research organizations called CROs, and you have a lot of CROs right now, writing every day, like they are coming out and rising all the days. So they take up a lot of loads of the sponsors and they do the studies. And we do see the regulatory authorities in place for all the time, every day for clinical research. Of course, the ethics committee, without that, we can't even do a study at your institute. And the government agency. What are the government agencies? Right now in our center, we do many studies for clinical research. Apart from that, we do studies on the epidemiological studies, translational research. These should be funded by the government agency and approved, like DBS, ICMR. And also academic institutions, like if you take abroad, like if you take NIH is there, then Duke University is there, then Dundee. And India also got a lot of academic institutions. They are also doing a lot of trials, so they are also play as important stakeholders. And of course, the investigator and research team where they play a role. And apart from that, the important stakeholders of this is the participants. Without participants, where do you get the data? We don't get the data. So the participant plays a major role in this. And coming to that, I'm from research side, I'm investigator side. So I thought it's very important, wherever I go, I present this roles and responsibility. I should not forget any time in my life. So it is very important that GCP section of 4.1 to 4.13 is very important role where the investigator is weighed by his qualifications and he should have adequate resources to run the study and medical care of the trial subjects. See, you can also ask me a question, how can a principal investigator is very active? Like for example, so Dr. Morgan, he's traveling across, he's got a lot of other hats on him. It's not only clinical trial, it's called translation research, it's called epidemiology, genomics, so many things, a number of things. How can he take care of it? That where he depute a co-investigator. So you can have 2-3 co-investigators in your study team to do this. And apart from that, what we do is that every week we give an update to the PI. So that is how we have to take care of the trial subjects. Each and every patient's medical care is very important. Then communication with the ethics committee and protocol compliance, whether we are compiling with the protocol and doing it properly, a proper storage for the investigation product, randomization where we have this IWRS now, and unblinding is not so happening as what is expected earlier, and informed consent, now it has become an AV consenting, the process has become bit laborious, and also the records and reports to be kept in place for the monitors, and also after that the archival. And progress report of the study, safety reporting online now, made in Sugam portal, and report within 24 hours. That is very important, online and offline also it will be reported. And comes the premature termination when the patient withdraws from the study, or the investigator, he or she himself, withdraw the patient from the study. And finally, without a safety. This is very important aspect. So I make a mandatory whenever I present like this is a slide of important. So the responsibility of the IEC is also important because they protect dignity, the rights and well-being of the participants, and also rigorous scientific evaluation apart from only for the marketing aspect. So many of our clinical trials are being accepted by the ethics committee. They say it's only for a marketing perspective. We are not interested. So straight away they say no. So they rigorously see whether there is some science involved. So, yeah, can you hear me? And we are continually monitoring for ongoing ethical compliance. Okay. And this is a very important thing you have to look at, the respect for persons, which we all know that is a Bellman report of all the unethical trials in the past being done. We got this Bellman reports, you have to go by the beneficial justice and respect for patients. So what do you mean by beneficial? So the drug should have 99%, at least more than 95% benefit, and you have very less of toxicity and adverse events. That's what we mean beneficial. And justice. Suppose you do an open label study and they give a drug, a well-known drug to a person who's well-known to you. So that kind of thing should not happen. So to avoid bias, we should be a judge to ourselves. That is very important. And respect for the person. So voluntarily they can withdraw from the study. Don't make them force be in the study. So this is very important concept of any clinical trials, whether it is centralized or decentralized. And I just want to give you a couple of things why we are successful in clinical trials is that we have completed about 160 global studies, which is 2, 3, and 4 global studies, 160. And we are well known for retention globally, 100% retention is more than 150 studies. And we have been inspected by many auditors and especially the EMA. And overall, we have got 27 times been audited. And for any recruitment is very important. When you start a study, don't have enough number of patients, don't start the study. Whether it is going to be a kind of a trial which you're going to do for the first time, have enough patients and try to see these patients are going to be with you. So understanding the psychology is very, very important. So when we sense the patients, that is very important. So the type and size of the trial also plays a role, the length of the time. Suppose you're doing a 5-year study. You should have a person who's going to be with you through. So talk to him, have a lengthy interview with him and then see whether he or she is going to be with you for the long-term study. And methods we usually adopt is those we rely on the direct patient contact. We have a big OPD here and also we have an inpatient ward. And apart from that, we get referrals from patients. Have you ever referral from patients? Yes, that is our success. So we the patients who are part of our study refer patients. where we are able to maintain 100% retentions and retrospective records and post disciplines. Okay. So this is the nutshell what we are doing currently, and also we are continuing for the last 10-15 years the same kind of a networking. So your database, ongoing population-based studies, where we get patients for the studies, relatives of the patients from the diabetic centers, from our OPD and IP also serves as one of the main source for recruitment. And our own staff, not our own staff from clinic, but other department staff, inform the neighbors, friends, and relatives, and organizations like banks, postal. I would like to give one record here because we did a study called TEAM. So we started 1 year apart from the US team, and we found that we were somewhere where at the last of the recruitment, but within 1 year, we were able to stand first for the recruitment. The reason for that, we have been conducting a lot of camps, and it's been ongoing still, and that is main success for the recruitment. And without recruitment, you should retain your patients. That is, you get number of patients directly within the 1.5 months task, or even 2 years, you get enough number of patients. But retaining the patient is very important. Otherwise, your intended questions or your hypothesis is not answered. So keep that in mind. So it is R squared. I say it's R squared. What does it mean? The retention should start when the recruitment starts. So keep that in mind. When you see a patient, see that whether he is going to be part of your study, and try you're going to be retaining him for the next few years or few months, okay? And apart from all this, what we found is that with this clinical trials, I'm here for 3 decades, what I found, we should have retention activities. So when you do a long-term study, the retention activities, the patient and with the PI or the POI is not enough. So we used to conduct a camp. It is called as a patient retention camp. So where the PI himself or herself come and address the team. And these are the main retention activities we have done so far. What we found is that keeping close contact is one of the best retention activities. And we also minimizing waiting time. Just keep this in mind, because you don't make the patients to wait for a long time. That is where you lose the patient. And we also spend more time discussing about the progress of the study. And patient education, we do like exercise, teach them what to be done, what not to be done, a newsletter. And apart from that, you can see the participants selected group that we started the decentralization long back. Decentralization came in place after all this. We started even 2000, 2002. So when the patients are elected to come to a site, we go there. But it's not a fully decentralization. We did a hybrid, right? And we have a catchy thing here. We got a memento for patients with good glycemic control. What we do is that to encourage other patients, we see, oh, this patient is glycemic control, his HbA1c is less than 7%. Why don't we call him and give a kind of a memento? And when he gets it from the principal investigator, he's so excited. And that motivates the rest of the patients. And they ask me, when is the patient retention camp? Is it 6 months later or 1 year? So that is how we build our rapport. That is very important for retention, right? And this actually, you see, like whenever we talk about decentralization, we say centralized trials or the traditional trials are not good because they are low in retention rate. I don't say yes for that, because earlier it was. But now with the introduction of the national study coordinators at many studies, you can see list of studies where the retention is more than 95%. And you can see the 0.6 that shown 100% retention, except for the independent, we didn't have a national study coordinator because I played the major role. So this is a kind of a nutshell. You can't say only decentralized trial will give a good retention, but how you treat the patients, how you build the rapport plays a major role in retention. Okay. Now, this is one of the papers of interest. You can just take a note of it. This is I've given the n number of retention, how it can be done in a clinical trial, so you can have a look at its paper if time permits. Now, this is reporting of SAE reporting. Now it has become in Sugam portal. As you know, we report to the sponsor, the DCG and DC within 24 hours. Then the investigator also to report to the head of the institution and the expert committee within 14 calendar days. And also what we do is that we have the sponsor then reporting to all the members. Then the EC should also report within 30 calendar days. This is all happening. But now it has become complicated because of the digitalization. Earlier, we used to write mail and the rest of everything goes by portal. And the challenge here is that there is no common space. So you go to a Sugam portal. If you want to write something in the comments, there is no common space. So that is all a kind of clutch we have in this digitalization. So this is a nutshell, like what I want. Now comes to our main topic of transformation from traditional to decentralized clinical trials, right? So this is what I would like to talk about. Why the impact of COVID, the travel restrictions and then physical distancing, all this made this trial a very, very complicated thing. So sponsors were motivated, but they have to run the trial, right? They can't stop it. In mid of the study, you are doing a 5-year study and a new drug, and they have put so much of money into it, and you can't stop a study in between. So what they did, they found some way. They started giving the medications to us, and we started moving from here to the site, to the patient's places. And it is not that we didn't even stop for a day when the COVID was there. When the severe time of a quarantine happened, we were in the house. But most of the time, myself and a couple of my staff were in the site because the rest of the department was kept closed, even all the research. But the clinical trials were running because we need to send the samples, collect the sample. We have to send the investigation product. We can't ask the patient, you stop the drug. They are diabetic patients and they are controlled with the new investigation product. And so we need to send it. So we found this way. And when the sponsor sent the courier person, and the courier was hesitant to come during the initial stage of the COVID. So what we did, we had our home care people who took the medications and they sent it to the patients, collected some. So that was one of the great work we did as a team. So that was really successful. And for the sponsors, the balance of the trade-offs for the pharma industry, they shifted the balance. So what they found is that the benefits outweighed the investment. So they found this is very beneficial, and moreover, they found it is very interesting to carry on the trial like a decentralization. And what they found at the end, they said 76% of the pharmaceutical companies and the device manufacturer and the CROs adopted decentralized techniques during the early phase of the pandemic that you must be aware of. Now, please keep it in mind, DCT's trials are not new. It is not entirely new. It is gaining new support. This is one of the studies done by Pfizer in 2011 called Remote, where they have started remotely. Everything was on digitalized, and they didn't have anything in the center. Few remote work was done, and this was in 2011. So having said all this, what happened? There is clinical trial initiative also took place. So in 2007, what the FDA and Duke University together did, they want to promote quality and improve the efficacy of the study. So they started discussing, yeah, we should have something apart from having a kind of a centralized trials, we should have a decentralized. So that is what we started discussing. And 2015, the US Congress also passed an act developing a framework for a novel trial. Then came in 2020, December 10th, we got the decentralized trial. So the birth of the decentralized trial is 2020, but the earlier action was in 2007. So this is one of the things the strategies which you adopt to conduct clinical trials amidst of corona outbreak. So what all we did during the period is clearly written in this paper. It was really catchy because this has also been taken by many of the other sites to follow during the pandemic. Okay. Now come the next one. Yeah. The traditional, why we are just talking about the traditional trials are very complicated? Yes. The reason for that, very expensive, includes selected populations and significant participant burden. Why do we say participant burden? Yes, they have to travel all the way to the site. And we have some older participants in the site, in the study. What they do, they need somebody to accompany them. So they want their son or daughter or the relatives or the granddaughter or grandson, whoever it is, to get them here. So that was a burden on the patients, and for elderly, they find it is very difficult. And they also termed as a direct to participant trials or virtual study, that is DCTs. And what are the tools we are using right now is telemedicine and sensory-based technologies, wearable medical devices, home visits, and also virtual healthcare interfaces and direct delivery of study drugs. All these are part of the DCT, which you must be aware, and I will just take you what are the challenges and also disadvantages of that. Okay, why are we moving to DCT? That is, the sponsor want to improve the efficiency and the effectiveness of the study, and also to improve the patient and physician experience, On top of it, they want to reduce the patient's burden by traveling and also to come very close to research, the research to be brought very close to them. So these are the aspects we thought the DCT is very important. So in a nutshell, what does the DCT do? You don't need to frequently travel to a healthcare facility. That is for the patients. And you can collect the data remotely, okay? And utilizes internet. You use internet, smartphones, telemedicine platforms, all enrollment, everything is online. It's all electronic. You can check remote data collection, monitoring, because monitors doesn't come. They after COVID, they make it 6 months, 3 months once, because they learned it. Monitoring can be done virtually and it can be checked, okay? And source data verifications can also be checked. And delivering the investigational products, because COVID has taught us a lesson that can be sent to the patients directly, and maintaining the temperature. So all this in place because the COVID has really taught us something good, which is taking the clinical research forward. And as I rightly said, the shift from the clinical trials from the hospital to the patients has started. So this is an illustration of how the DCT looks like. This is where I've taken the source from Van Norman, where you can see how the patient is connected everywhere. He's connected to the doctor, the local lab, and the source data is also, because he's got a wearable monitor where all his data is going, his electronic records, and also drug is supplied, and internet connection, and the web recruitment is only a web recruitment, okay? So the benefits, what do you feel the benefits? Yes, definitely the DCT is faster than the traditional clinical research. If you are, but everything should be done in early stage. It is not like when you do centralized clinical trials or a traditional trial, that is, you can do something inbuilt, so many things. But when you do a DCT, you should think aloud and see that everything can be done. So it is much faster than the traditional clinical trial. And also for recruiting suitable patients, because it is motivating an entire study. And what we do is that it also take diverse populations. It's not sticking to one. You can go to geographical area, different geographical area, and collect the patients and recruit. So the recruitment becomes faster and retention, because you're having the hold on the patient. You go to the patient house, collect everything, and you already built a rapport. So that is an important aspect of this DCT. And also 75% of respondents work with decentralized, save a lot of money. Yes, these are cost savings. And common errors, because it comes directly. There is no need to check your electronic data, come there, or a paper source document. And transforming the data will always a kind of an error. And the monitor comes, sits in your hospital or your center and say, this should be corrected. This disability is not covered. That is no hypertension. So that can be no problem, because that directly goes to the electronic data record. So these are the benefits, right? So advantages to the patients, which is improved patient convenience and experience. They can sit at home, Aram say they can sit at home, and somebody comes and do everything, yeah, fine, and reduce travel time. Reduce time consuming in-person visits. That is what, because currently we are doing studies, all titration titrating the glycemic control. So what happens, every week the patient has to come to the site. We feel they are so irritated, they are frustrated. So we take more time to talk to the patient and see, yeah, this time, next 2 weeks later, you need to come only 1 month later. Next 2 weeks later, you have to come only 3 weeks later or 3 months later. So that is how we convince the patient. So the time consuming in patient is also reduced. That is main advantage, which I really appreciate. Nowadays, if you say the protocol, how are they given? For a diabetic studies, if you take 2 weeks, you have to come do a titration. From the lead-in period to randomization, the patient has to come at least 3-4 times. Where are they placed? They may be somewhere 50 kilometers away from our center, 20 kilometers, 30 kilometers. And so that is taken care. That is a very good advantage to the patients, which I really agree. And what are the advantages to the investigators? Reduce workload, yes. And it's more streamlined experience. You get everything in place or digitalized, everything comes into you, so no problem, it's done. And speeding up of recruitment. Because as he said, you can stretch a lot, you can get more patients. Within 2 days, you get this patient. No, not possible. You go out, you get patients. They give 1 month and recruit 30 patients. It's all unimaginable number. If you see nowadays the protocols which are coming, they give 1.5 months. Can you recruit 30 patients, ma'am? Which is not possible. So where do I get 30 patients within 1.5 months? So I have to talk to the patient, get them motivated, see that they are going to be part of my. All this should happen. So speeding up recruitment is not a problem in your DCTs. And access to more patients, that is obvious because you are stretching a lot from this normal site area to different all places, and increasing compliance because there is no need the patient to come because you are going and all the visits are covered. Whenever I see my staff bringing in, they say, ma'am, there is a non-compliance. What is a non-compliance? Mainly because of that, there has been, they call us a protocol deviation. I will see what are protocol deviation. Because the patient not able to come on time, he will be on leave or he'll be having official work. So that is one problem which is taken care of. And reducing dropouts, of course, and collecting high quality data and real world data. So what are the disadvantages? Have you thought of the disadvantages? Data breach risk. Yes, we have seen the data breach risk in 27 countries that has happened in one of the ongoing studies. You agree or not? Because even though you have a firewall, you have everything, you have a cloud data, you have a separate server for you, this could happen. So that you should be very, very careful as a sponsor, as a CRO, you take this as an important message and see the data breach doesn't happen. And also risk of weakening the physician and patient relationship. Agree? Yes. See, some patients come to the site mainly to see everyone and say, hi, it's a social interaction. So that is totally cut. And they go for low mode, just having everything at home and someone goes and check everything and they go. They feel that relationship. I have a patient, he came even today. The patient is traveling around 110 kilometers and it takes 3 hours, right? He's coming the car, vehicle. And I'm not paying for the vehicle. He said, don't want money. And he comes all the way to see hi and say everyone, hello, how are you? And talks to each and every one of the students. So that is totally cut there, right? And the relationship.
Dr. Varsha, can you mute yourself?
And clinical checks may be less connected remotely. Yes. And methodological bias caused by combined use of clinical measurements, right? Because there are a couple of doctors keep changing and the methodological bias can also. And as I rightly said, the potential isolation of the trial setting does not have to meet and share experience. See, in one of, if we can see my paper, I should sharing their experience. See, we have patients, they are NRIs, the son and daughter are in other countries, they are in US, UK. Why are they part of the study? I was so astonished. Why they are part of the study? Because they have nobody there. They have everything. They have all facilities. They come here to just have someone. So that is totally cut when you do a DCT, right? And this is a known challenge of traditional clinical trials where the time management is very difficult. Recruitment becomes very challenged. Engaging the patient, retaining them is a challenge, and communications. All this in a nutshell is a challenge of the traditional clinical trials. Now, I want to just give a brief details. What is the difference between this traditional decentralized, though I have sent you a lot of slides on it. We have seen it. Recruiting becomes a doctor's indications. The OPD is there, the database is there. And of course, we get reference from the participants. That is the total success for us. We are around 5,000 to 6,000 patients who have already completed the study. And they refer patients to that. That is ultimate retention we have. And digital advertising using ads, that is decentralized. And participant consent, it is in-person consent, signature, AV consenting, here electronic consent signature. But how are we going to give an AV consenting? No, not possibly. Give an e-consent, okay. But I don't know whether how it's going to take place in the AV consenting, the sponsor has a call for it. And the screening, in-person physical exams and electronic health record, the e-screener, yes, you get the everything on the EHR. And enrollment in person, it is electronic enrollment. And treatment and follow-up is on-site treatment and self-treatment or mobile health care. There are a lot of mobiles. We know whether how the mobile works. So that is left to what type of mobile we are giving to the patients. And retentions, scheduling in-person visits and studying medicine. And stand of it is that after the last in-person visit and this returning all the study equipment, that means any software which you have used, everything, you have a returning the study equipment, right? Now, coming to this, it's very important. What is this patient centricity? Do you think it's a problem? Patient centricity is a problem? Yes or no? Yes, in what aspect you say patient centricity is a problem? Because we don't know how, like, few patients are very new to clinical trials. You take new patients because your protocol is not one protocol, it differs. We have different population to be taken into this. So what happens? They are at least unfamiliar with the clinical trials and having access to the technology, the latest technology, the data capture devices, and also home nursing. They may not be comfortable. So when they come to a hospital, yeah, they feel secure. So that is very important. We have to look at when you do a patient centricity. So that's why when we have a trials which is ongoing here, we have our own, we have two coordinators who does all the tasks for one study. So even the see me, they say, no, I will see them. That kind of a rapport they build. So that is missing in this, it's a challenge. And regulatory guidance, keep on changing regulatory guidance in India. So what happens, it is still an infant, it is growing, it is just, it's like an infant regulatory guidance. So the landscape keep changing. So we have to adhere to that also for the DCT. And data quality and integrate, how well the apps work, how well the ECOA, the electronic outcome data we are collecting. Do we have an integrity and quality data? We have to check that before we implement it. And what I say, I regret to say that earlier study we completed, the patient was given a cell phone and it's a smartphone. And he was away from the network. In the sense, the network at times, because as I said, this patient who came today, he's coming around 100 kilometers away from our center. So that is the place we had another patient coming. And he was not able to capture data because what app they used, whether they used broadband, the width, everything counts. So as a sponsor, as a CRO, when you implement all this, you have to take this into consideration. And then organizational design. What is that organizational design? We are designing the protocol. What organization? You have the background, you have what you have to do, the inclusion. Why is that organ? The whole total people, teamwork as a sponsor, what you have to do? You have an hierarchy and you see each and everyone in your organization is well defined or well known about the apps and the latest technology. That is very important. See that you have to see. Without you knowing it, you can't tell the patient how to use it. And we have difficulty. Right now we have a study where we have a electronic, we have a smartphone and the patient has an e-diary. And the patient has to write what is blood sugar in his e-diary and also write the time when he has to take it. So that you're not able to do it, right? So what we do, our staff are well trained. Though the patient is not well in the technology, we'll call son, daughter, do this. So it is also this, you have to, when you inbuild, you have to use it very user-friendly, and each and everyone in your organization has to teach it. So when they come to the site, there are people, senior people who can learn. But the person who's going to the patient's house should know well how to explain this. And collaboration and support overall. As I said, the support not only from all the stakeholders should take this collaboration and support to take it a great success. Okay. Now, we generally saw what are the challenges with respect to the conducting of the DCTs. Now we are talking about the time management which comes in the perspective of an investigator. See, that is HCP is nothing, and healthcare providers are required to visit multiple patients visits in one day. I don't know whether you are aware of it, but we have done a study on a foot ulcer where there was one study nurse, she has to attend 3-4 places. So what happened? The patient will be waiting. So the staff has to take a mode of transport, is a public transport, or they would have given some less money. She can't travel to that place. So there was a delay and the patient got irritated. So that is very important when you do this task. And sending each person on one day or the other day, they get so fed up. So they want to know a person where they have already built a rapport. So that is very important. With respect to time management, you have to say that they maintain high standard of care in connecting to the patient, and also continuity of patient care. So the inconsistency of the visiting healthcare provider will also be restricted to elderly patients and the diseased patients. And as I rightly said, the patient's attitude, some patients are more comfortable being seen in person, and they come, they want to see, and they want to have a special attention also. And this knowledge with technology and all is very difficult. Even if someone asks me to do this and this to merge, I find it very difficult. I ask my staff how to do it. This morning also you're asking him, how do you do this, that? But that is how the technology has developed. And how can you imagine a patient doing it? And though he's educated or uneducated, he should be very good at using a gadget. So unfamiliar with the electronic instrument, especially in the elderly, what happens? Shift the study population to an younger set of sample size. Agree? Because that will be a recruitment bias. So people who are very good with kind of technology, they'll definitely get into that. There is one app coming in now. We are going to do a study. And they said, we want only educated person. We want only English speaking people. So you're missing a lot of people. You don't get the feed on how the trial. So that is where there is also a bias. And e-consent, how can you assure that you're informing all the information to the informed by e-consent? See, when at our center, what we do, we give at least minimum 2 weeks to 1 month for the patient to take it home the consent, check with their family members whether he or she can be part of the study, and also the family physicians. In India, still family physicians are not a kind of very say yes to clinical trials. They say, why you are part of this a new drug? So there are studies which stops because of that. So what I say, this is also a concern because e-consenting, we don't know how the interactive part of the informed consent is remotely be given. So that is very important with the perspective of the investigator. And then n number of things for the sponsor's perspective. Especially, you have to train couriers. They have to deliver medical supplies safely and legally, and also with the temperature control. Technological failure, loss of patient data. If you're not able to capture, if you're having a lot of problem with your cloud database, then gone. Then finding new technology vendors. So you may be asking some vendors, suddenly say no, then approving in a time limit. This also delay the trials and difficulty in data collection, right? And reporting of an adverse event. We don't know how we are going to collect the data. Like it's still going on. I think from 1.13%, 1.3%, it has gone to 2.2% at 2021, as per my concern, the DCT. But how the reporting of an adverse event to be addressed is also a challenge. And direct shipment of the investigational trial part of the drug to the participants. And also the confidentiality is completely remote is a question, and limited availability of cloud platforms, because we have a server and the cloud platforms availability is not there, then it will be a problem. And configurable platforms on the market. You will go to a vendor and that configuration, you may not be having it. So that is finding a configurable platform is also a challenge. And also integration with other clinics. That is a standalone, you have something, and adding couple of things. Like you have only one eco-A, but you are adding couple of eco-A, then that is also a cumbersome. That will also complicate things. And more complex studies can need lot of startup times. That is well known. It is mostly in centralized as well as decentralized studies. Okay. So what we have to do, how are we going to address? Engaging partners, collaborators, stakeholders at the earliest stage. It's very, very important to engage them from the earliest stage, and understanding the individual state laws with respect to what? The telemedicine, with respect to the IMP, and also other laws which is governing that state. That is very important. Developing system for tracking receipt and drug accountability is also one thing you have to consider. Current systems to include training and assessment for the mobile healthcare providers. Okay, so we have covered almost everything here. And identifying physicians with medical licenses in the multiple states. Okay, and also reviewing, getting feedback from the patients is very important. Listen to patients' needs. And what kind of an investigator you are going to select, how you are going to delegate that to the responsibility with context to the remote research. Okay. So do we say that decentralized clinical trial is going to be the future? I say no and yes. So fully centralized does not make sense for all types of research. Agree? Where you have an MRI or CT scan, where do we do it? We have to come to the clinic trial site. So this cannot happen. And also trials, medical blood draw, which is suppose you're doing a PKPD study. Can you do it at a patient's house? Not possible. So you have to come to a home. You can't do it. You come to the clinic. So that is also very important aspect to think of. And we'll continue to grow as a technology. Yes, we agree. And we are entirely moving from the site to a kind of a patient's perspectives. So I could say that hybrid models will be more common and is accepted. And so to conclude, the best study protocol could be a mix match, centralized, decentralized, based on the study objectives. So when your study objective is very complex, you're doing an MRI scan, you can't do it. So it should be a mixed match. So better to go for a hybrid. And observation study, obviously go for a DCT, there is no question about. An oncology study, maybe an hybrid approach with more expensive site-based equipment. And we have to make changes according to the needs of the DCTs and the future of the research. And finally, to conclude, you have to accessibility, use technology that is easy to use, don't complex things, don't see life is very simple, right? And if you complex things that will make this even trials more cumbersome and people get so irritated, they'll even try to go out from the study. And simplicity, keep tasks for patients as simple as possible. Don't give them this e-diary along with that, something like that. Give them e-diary, that's fine. And see that the network is fine. See that its network is fine, that is very important. And to make sure the tools and process are thoroughly tested, no pitfalls. So this is very important aspect which we have to think about when you do DCT. So I conclude by saying it should be a mix and match. Both you should have a centralized and decentralized correct now at Indian scenario. Okay. Thank you for your attention. So I welcome any more questions for this. If you have.
Again, many thanks, Pungotai. And first of all, I have one word, wow. So this was a brilliant piece of thought that you have given the audience, and which includes a lot of ophthalmologists also today. And before I go on to questions, I will also welcome Dr. Raja Lakshmi, and Charita, who are senior people involved in research and ophthalmic research. And I'll ask for the comments also. But before I do that, I have one question. So the first half of the talk was about ethics, good clinical practices, and the second aspect was about decentralization. And somewhere you also mentioned about how regularization or the authorities are going to come in. So how do we ensure this good clinical practice vis-a-vis decentralization?
That is my question too. No, that is my question to the sponsors and the CROs, because I was thinking aloud. So how we are going to have the GCP in place? That is, we will be using a bit of that. That is for sure. That's why I say a hybrid mode is always welcome, because you can do these aspects at the site and the rest of the thing by the patient side.
Yes.
So that we don't use the GCP aspect.
Yes. So somewhere we introduce somewhat about the field work or a field trial also into a clinical trial now. Yes. And since you have experience, just guide us how you have been going around choosing the best person to carry out the decentralization process. Okay.
Okay, can I come back with the question, because I was just distracted with the question which is coming up.
So my question is that how should we, as a investigator, choose the best possible person to carry out this decentralization? Yeah,
that's a good question, but a well-experienced person. And it's something you can't take a new person and train them, because they should be aware of what is a traditional clinical trial. So that person should be a little experienced, at least couple of experience where they are with a good platform with the traditional trial, and then slightly moving on to the next step, they will be able to do it much better. And the person which you are going to look at should have a kind of developing a good rapport. So wherever there, it could be a decentralized trial or even a kind of a traditional style, you can have a hold of that, and you can see that you can get your answer for the hypothesis what you're looking at.
Yeah. So many thanks, Pungotai. Before I take up the questions, requesting Dr. Raja Lakshmi for her comments and how she has seen the ophthalmic research and the decentralization aspect.
I think Dr. Raja Lakshmi is our one of the sub PI for the study, and she has got a lot of expertise, like me in clinical trials, and we both run a study, and she will also share our experience with that.
Yeah, thank you, Brajesh, and thank you, Pungotai, for this excellent talk on the advantages and disadvantages of centralized and decentralized clinical trials. It was an excellent talk. Of course, in ophthalmology trials, where on follow-up we do need investigations like eye imaging, etc., carrying out decentralized, I don't know how much it would work, but Pungotai is an expert in ensuring that patients are retained in all these trials And I think her inputs will, whether it is a centralized trial or a decentralized trial, retention of the study participants is key for the success of any study trial, irrespective of whether it is ophthalmology, particularly longitudinal studies, etc., where patient retention becomes important, participant retention becomes important. The rapport, building a rapport between the clinical study coordinator and the principal investigator and the participant is key for success. So I think her inputs were very valuable. Thanks, Pugode, for this excellent talk. It was a pleasure listening to you.
Thank you, Doctor, for your excellent comments and appreciation. Thank you.
Thanks, Rajalakshmi. There is a question, Pungotai, which is that is there any defined regulatory guidance on which can be an on-site, remote, or a hybrid trial?
I think it is getting in place. I think things are started working on it. The FDA started already working on the guidelines. I think it to come out, but I don't know about the CDSCO, but I think FDA has already started on the guidelines.
Okay, so in your experience, how do sponsors take this up? I mean, do they leave it to you that you choose what has to be done? And then how do you go about it?
You know, it's not done like that. Whether it is, we have been doing only traditional trials so far. Even getting the information from the investigator to do a trial plays a major role. See, when you do writing a protocol is very easy, right? You can write a protocol, but make it whether it is practically possible. See, I was just giving an example where the patient's visits, you are making very frequent, patients feel it very difficult. And there are studies, if we can see, all out from other countries, US and especially from Denmark. They do a study where you take a 7-point blood sugar. Since you are from a diabetic center, where do we take 7-point blood sugar when we have our dinner at 10 o'clock and we go to sleep immediately? They say take after dinner and 2 hours after dinner. So that logic doesn't work. And this is all should be implemented. So they don't ask us initially what to be done. So they don't get inputs except for few of the studies, which is, I insist that this should be done, this should be done. They say, yes, it can be taken, but later they say, no, it's not taken up at the US level or whichever country they are talking about. So that is as for the Indian guidelines. I don't know, we have to force this. It's very important because practically speaking, they are giving a liquid diet where there are some studies which is ongoing now. A meal which is not even culturally appropriate for an Indian. Okay, you can't take wheat grass, something which is possible for us. That is not being thought of. So it's really not. They don't take any comments from us. Though they take it, they are not implementing. See, another example is that there is a suicidal question. So that is on the Columbia suicidal questionnaire. You must be aware of. So that question, it is not necessary for the drug itself. They're asking why. So the patient asking why that question to me. Okay, you are inducing something to the patient. I said, why do you want this? Make the question up, which is very simple. So these are the things which is not being taken up by the pharma company. So we have to insist as an investigator, as a sponsor.
So there is another question by Dr. Varsha. Dr. Varsha is our public health expert of ophthalmic diseases at LB Prasad Eye Hospitals, and she's asking that with the network issues, our country, how the data will be stored and how serious adverse events will be managed. I think serious adverse events you did tell with your chart, but the first question is an open one.
Yeah. See, how the data will be stored, I don't have a clue because I'm from the investigator side, but to my knowledge, they have this cloud mode where they are storing the data and they say it's secure. But in spite a breach could happen, even though we have a firewall. But now things are taken in such a way, they are stored insecurely because they had a lot of things coming up now and they are very careful in doing this. And serious adverse events will be managed. Yes, that is a question of, for me also. I don't know, it is a decentralized trial, it is little questionable. But if it is a kind of a traditional trial, it is managed well because we are having a portal, everything is going online with respect to the Indian scenario for the Indian trials, right? Globally, when you talk about these two global people, they say, why Indian law is so strict? Why are we having all this? Why this law? Why this ICMR is giving so many things? So that is what they question us. But as per the serious adverse event for decentralized clinical trials, I'm not very sure about it, but it is managed. But when you talk about traditional clinical trials, it is managed well and it is all captured also.
Yeah, fair enough. So I think Charita is here. If Charita would unmute and give her comments. Charita has been looking after our clinical research section at LV Prasad Eye Hospital. So Charita, your thoughts?
Yeah, as of now, no, I don't have any comments, doctor. I just wanted to go through the guidelines, like if there are any kind of thing. That's it. Other than this, I don't have any comments as of now.
Okay. See, as I feel, they say the future research, but from the sponsor's perspective, it's good. From the investigator's perspective, when you involve people with economic status, the people who are really well educated can do good things rather than people who are not so highly educated. So this should be kept in mind when you do studies in India. With respect to that, I feel that hybrid mode is much better than having both. I mean, only decentralized clinical trials. The literacy rate is also high in other countries, and they are they do everything with the gadgets. So when you travel, you can see a old lady, a European lady can handle many things. She can have the gadgets. And I saw an 80 years old doing everything. But in India, the scenario is the same. We depend on others, and old people, they need someone to help them to do that. It's practically the same. I think things will take more time to change to the completely a decentralized clinical research. But it's going to be the future, but we don't know how it's going to be with respect to oncology studies, and we do studies with MRI scans and all, but we need to think a lot on all these aspects.
Nilima, is there any question on the chat box? Further? I don't think there is one.
I think there is one from Dr. Varsha that
That's interesting.
that's on.
Okay, we need to have doctors on the sites. Yes, not. They need to go at least, because otherwise, how do we know? Because you have a healthcare professional, which can also include doctors who can also visit to the patient's house.
Okay, so I think we just have 1 or 2 minutes left now, Pongotai. So
Yeah.
first of all, many thanks. And I'll just reiterate the way you presented. It was all passion of a researcher coming out, and all kind of questions, and all kind of frustrations coming out. And it's very nice to know that we can actually address these frustrations in a more convenient way for the participant as well as the researcher. But I think what comes out is the missing link between the investigator and the participant, and how we can keep that link also motivated. So many thanks for joining us today, enlightening us today. If there are any further questions, they can, I think, be put to Dr. Pungothai via email, or can be routed by us. And we look forward more to your guidance, Pungothai. I think we'll be coming back to you again over
Sure,
topic.
it's my pleasure sharing my experience and learning things every day. Learning from new people also. Bye.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you
So much, and thanks for the opportunity given. Thanks once again to all. Thanks, Nilima, for considering me for this webinar.
Thank you so much for giving such a insightful lecture. Actually, I have a lot of questions, but yeah, maybe we'll save it for next session.
Yeah, sure, we can go ahead, not a problem.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you so much.
Thank you. My pleasure.